Try to understand this from a higher place, and by using these words as guides for your brain to interpret what I mean by it. Now, there's that popular saying of, I'm not a human, I'm a spiritual being having the human experience. Now, in that same way, realize that you're much more than that. You're not just a spiritual being having a human experience. With all that already included, you're also a human being having an earth experience, because the body of earth and its magnetics and all its different electro everything, not just electric, there's everything from all the minerals to everything. Science will never have words for the things that don't need shape and sound. They're doing what they're doing without us ever truly understanding it. A lot of the science and a lot of the history that we have heard is just made up by people sounding good, and all they've ever done is explained the unseeable things with interesting magic words. Because everything is magic. And whether people want to get that or not, magic starts with mag, just like magnet does, and magnetism, for a reason. Because if people truly understand more than just coming from the body that has a voice box that lets out words, God is the Word, and the Word sounds differently between every human being. Sometimes voices are similar, but then the Word also comes out differently through every race, through every species, and those are all the Word as well. The human being, while having the earth experience and a universal experience, the highest creator, or God, is more than just the universe. What people don't understand unless they've actually been there is that this is almost as if we're experiencing what it's like to be a cell inside our body. But the universe is not necessarily a construct or an illusion. It's as if the living things on our liver were really tiny bacterias, and in the darkness they can see that there's such thing as a heart, and even farther than that heart there's lungs, and then even farther than those lungs there's a nose, or a nose passage, and eyes, and then even farther than that there's a brain. And it would be unimaginable for most people to think that a tiny bacteria looking, or just use this as a comparison, a tiny bacteria that could understand a direction, that had to assign names and words to explain what they meant by a direction, would say, to the north there is a heart, and even higher than that there are lungs, and even higher than that there are eyeballs, and then there's a brain. Now, in that exact same way, in our human words, the way we explain that is as above, so below. But people want to think that there's no coincidences in the world. Everything is happening the way the divine plan goes. But then, if somebody can actually explain details of things like that, that's when all of a sudden it's not part of the divine plan, and it's a coincidence, but it's just because they haven't had the true feeling within themselves, within their body, holding this earth spirit, holding this universal spirit, and holding the essence of what is. People like to think the universe is what the highest creator is. No, I'm sorry. The universe is actually an understanding that our brain has. And that's not just in a science way, it's in such a bigger way. I'm using words to try to explain something that is speaking every language, including all the different species. Now, as we human beings have the ability to clutter our mind with scary things and odd things, just like when we shoot ourselves or people have got the jab and that has destroyed a part of their microbiome. We'll use these words or just use them and understand what they mean. They destroyed a part of their microbiome. And because of that, the microbiome is giving your body a different result. And you're feeling different circumstances due to that. Now, that below equaling our bodies above is what our individual selves, not cells, our individual selves have also been led to do to the higher body. Now, the higher body of Earth, at that point, we are obviously destroying it. And the only way to understand is not to get totally lost in the giganticness that I'm trying to explain it as, like we're a little bitty bacteria cell looking up at the brain from the liver or something like that. But I'm just saying we are so much more than people have ever heard. And they're lost in the zodiac signs, and they're lost in this, and they're lost in that, and they're lost going against the system, and they're lost permaculturing, which none of those things are necessarily losses. But the spiritual part of us that is here that can start to understand it by going back to nature and cooperating in unison with nature, that is what we truly are. We don't even need the food. We don't even need the shelter. Our minds can overcome every idea of heat, cold, pain, poison, torture. They can overcome those. It's just that if you elect to stay in the human form to try to help other spiritual beings who are actually not just having the human experience, they're having the earth and the universal experience, you elect to stay here because you know that the thing inside them is what needs you. Not just that the human beings need you or other people need you. If you really truly understand this, I've never heard anybody say anything like this because they aren't in that endless, timeless moment that I'm in. This timeless moment is always here. No matter if I go to a job that I have and have to put on a Dan Alexander act, or if I'm sitting with my mother and father and having to put on the act of their son, trying to relate to them a message about our highest infinite spiritual being, because I'm always there. So people don't understand like why I'm not saying the perfect thing they want me to say, because every detail of our earth world is a distraction. Because if it requires us to take away from the earth without giving back, then we're just destroying the planet. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't some people doing a great job with cooperating with the planet, giving back, doing permaculture. But now, think of every being of every size and realize that if you're not going to say something like, my child, they were so cute and they brought me a lot of attention and a lot of joy as I was getting accustomed to them, and they were new and it was fun and beautiful. Like, this is an example. I'm not saying you should be like this, but just follow me. Like my kid, up to 3, 4, 5, and when they get to be about 6, when they're off to school, they start changing when they get around their friends. Now, let's either sell them off, and if someone butchers them and eats them, that's none of our business. We treated them well as a kid. We, took them to Disney World and had a lot of fun with them, and we played with them until they got out of their cute phase and started getting bratty. And then we just, or else, they weren't doing anything. They weren't bringing us any attention from our friends. Because people were like, they're having their own kids, and they're like, well, your son is now, or your child is now speaking, so it's no interest to us. So then you just say, oh, okay, we'll just chop them up and eat them for dinner because that's, we got our use out of them. No, see, like not only would I never, ever, 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 ever harm a child in any way, I love them, and I want to teach them how to grow and be one with this planet. But at the same time, I would never, ever, ever harm an animal. Doesn't matter if I'm using its fluids or its eggs, none of those things. Those things don't produce them for you, no matter how much of a friend you are to that animal. Like, how can't people get this in their individual minds? No matter how much I make a good friend with a human being, am I going to say, hey, can I, use you for your fluids for a while? I want some of the fluids you produce. I want some of the meat you've got on you. And, we can be good friends for a while, but after we're done being friends, there's really no point in me having you in my life. So I'll just chop you up and munch you down because it's, really good for my health, supposedly. Like, this is the mentality that people are not understanding from the higher spiritual body. Like, there's no excuse. In the higher form, yes, the highest God has no personal preference. But every being you harm, everyone thinks that if they have animals inside a farm and they use the products from those animals, and then eventually some of them are planning on slaughtering them, do not understand that it's actually a heavier spiritual karma in certain ways because it's a betrayal at the last moment of death. Even if you sneak up on it and kill it, the body is not even the animal. The body isn't you. The body isn't the animal. Everything holds a spiritual resonation. Yes, it can seem like the element of surprise because we know what it's like to be surprised. But say you are surprised and somehow you die. Well, guess what? Your awareness is still there, just at a different capacity, because sometimes if you die out of fear or you die out of just surprise and you didn't know, you're thrown into a whole big whirlwind of otherworldly things that people cannot even fathom or put into words. We hear the bardos, we hear the dimensions in between, we hear purgatory, we hear the other realms, and it's more than that. It's nothing we're ever going to be able to speak about. I'm trying my hardest, but no words will ever do it justice. When you pass on from this lifetime, you will truly see it and feel it. And what the whole goal while being here on this earth, having this earth experience in a universal experience, is to actually learn yourself so well and not get discouraged or distracted or turned away by the people, the places, the things, the items, the food that you get addicted to liking. Some of this is so hard. Imagine people who really liked an energy drink because for a long time they thought it was good and they didn't think it was actually that bad for them. And then they notice it when they have there's a point in your time where you shift, and it is meant to happen at a certain time in your life, and people will just not get it because there is no time. A spiritual being enters into a time body, into a universal scale, which now produces Earths and different planets, and now that produces, not just produces, it gathers those gatherings of elements that produce those different planets. Now, through their different elemental properties, create beings from small to large. And the spiritual mind needed no time to do any of this. The only thing you're doing is experiencing what seems to be the illusion of time for however long your lifespan is in any body you take form in. I know that might be hard to follow, but like I said, I'm trying so hard to say it so that my youngest child can understand, or so that even a person who's just now starting to learn words, not like gaga goo goo and not like ball and chocolate, like that can actually start speaking, like a 3, 4, 5 area child, where they start being able to compose a whole sentence and actually hear an answer and comprehend what the answer means. That's why I talk like this, because that's what we truly are deep down inside. We are a living thing, period. Whatever you want to call that is fine. But we are that. And I know because I'm always there, using my word and my power through this body called Dan. And I know this because I remember so much before I was even here in this body. I remember so much before this earth was here. And most people will just not even understand it because it has nothing to do with any of the stuff they're talking about. Because The idea that you die and you're reincarnated here on Earth, you can do that. But I've experienced so many other things that aren't even on different planets. They're in different types of universes that have no similarities whatsoever, but we cannot imagine them. It's almost like we are swimming in air as the fish are swimming in water. And we can go in water, but fish can't come out in the air. When we die, the spiritual being we are can then manifest based on how focused and how clean, cleansed, and mindful you are when you get to your death stage. You can actually take that and live in a way where, above and beyond how fish can't live in the air, but humans can live in the air, and they can also be in the water for lengthy periods of time, unlike fish can, like with different technologies and things like that. There's times where we don't even need any, quote unquote, because we're talking about humans here, man-made technology. The technology of the universe is so much bigger and more profound than any words we will ever say. So therefore, the people talking all these big hyper words are just confusing more people, unless they've taken some kinds of super molecular science class. And I'm talking about 3, 4, 5 year olds. Because most of us, after we were children and went to school, we immediately started getting trained to listen and not feel the way you really feel and do as you're told. And some of us, way before that, from birth, they've been trained, or they've been sort of brought up in families and societies that train you to be a certain way. I know this, not from this body that I am, but from all the bodies that I've ever been on every different planet, and especially all the ones here on this planet. Present, future, past, all of it. And I've done it. And nobody can truly understand what I mean because they have never even been a centimeter out to the distance that I have been. No matter how many drugs they've done, no matter what, their brain was then interpreting different things in different ways. And that's what happens to us. We all get lost in our own brain, along with our human ideas and our human history. Those things are not real when you die. That's why if you let them go, the true idea of truly letting something go, you will then be able to understand how nature speaks. And that's how I saw all the stuff with the letters and the numbers and the signs and the light and everything. And why I explained the letters and the numbers first is because in order to explain the rest of it, people are going to have to understand what they mean so that I can move on to the light and to the spirit and to the elemental nature and the elemental memory and the mineral memory and the spiritual memory. I can't explain that to people until they understand what the letters and numbers mean. Now, if they could simplify themselves and not be overcomplicated, watching the news and eating their garbage and doing their fad things, they'd be able to understand what I mean. How there's no way I'm going to be able to communicate it to you if you don't understand what the letters and the languages of numbers and sounds mean. Yes, there's a spin. That comes to do with your intention, the velocity of your voice, and usually every person has a kind of individually mostly permanent voice because it changes depending on your mood, or you can be louder and softer, but every one of us comes with a individualized pattern. Some have scratchy voices and some have high voices, and some are girl voices and some are boy voices, and it doesn't really mean much other than your intention, the velocity. Now those things affect other people by the way they hear your voice. Without ears, everything is just dead silence. I've been there in those places for times it seemed like more than we could ever put into any kind of measurement. Not just billions of years, like ever. Like before time started, it was so much, it was 1,000, 1,000,000, there's no number. But I'm just going to use it to not sound over crazy, but at the same time, just to make a point that at least 1,000 times longer than we have now been saying our Earth has been around for. Over billions, hundreds and hundreds of billions of years. there's no, the Googleplex is even like a blink of how long I remember being in complete silent darkness with thinking going on, and that thinking then created time, and then through that time all that space that was left behind filled, and it didn't necessarily fill from this moment onward, it filled from that moment backwards as it revealed itself through light to me. And now we're living it forward. And I'm explaining the letters and numbers so that people can understand why they're in the position they are. And their name will resonate no matter where they are. That's why people in certain positions are easier to understand how the letters and numbers work. That's why I use celebrities. That's why I try to use, like, if someone mentions a friend, it's always going to end up being something I can explain. But then they're going to be like, so then what do they do for a living? What's their middle name? And I'm like, I've been so many people and done so many things. I'm not playing cat and mouse and trying to impress you by being a quote unquote psychic. Like, we are all psychic. Let's not play with each other's heads all the time. Let's not try so hard to prove something to ourselves that someone else could not fathom the things that you didn't. I'm right here with my heart wide open, trying to enlighten each person that I can about who they truly are at their depth. And whether they believe it or not, this is true. Belief only has a lot to do with what you do in your intentions in the physical world, or what you motivate yourself to do within yourself. But the fact of belief on its highest level means jack shit other than a word. Those words are great. Those things, when you stand behind them, are awesome. But if you understand that wind doesn't blow a spirit around, the things higher than spirit don't move, just like light, unless there's like branches or leaves or drapes or something flapping to make shadows. No wind, no heat, no cold, no rain will ever change the light body spirit that you are. When the light's out, it doesn't just get blown around, it's right there. Now, maybe the individual particleized photons that we discuss may blow around or move around in their own ways. They're floating, hovering, particleizing into other ones. Same damn thing. These are all words that the human mind creates. Now, some people may think I'm just rambling on and on, but I'm not. I'm coming from that place and trying to put it in the best words I've ever tried to. And each time it gets more and more difficult because, like I said, I'm trying to keep it simple for children. I want children to understand that they're so magical underneath all this. Yes, get back to the earth. Love the earth and speak to it. Love the earth and cooperate with it. See it as your family, as your holy higher mother, and understand that time and the action and the patience it takes is what the Holy Father is. The Father is the future. Now, if people truly start understanding that, farther, it's right in the word, but father and farther and then further and then future. Those are all relative sounds in the sound family, in the vibrational family, that have nothing to do with the physical body or voice cords. But now that we say them and we're saying them and they resonate and sound similar to each other, they actually have magical essence and magical power. It's just so many of us do it in so many meaningless ways and never understood it that we're throwing everything out of whack. And people think, oh, I can believe what I want to believe. The higher power that is you, yes. But here, as a human experience, in an earth experience, in a universal experience, no. You are here to save this planet. You are here to preserve it and actually heal it. So when I say save, I just mean save what you can of it. Help it heal. That's what you do. People have to learn to sit and calm themselves down and basically heal boy, like a dog does, like that whole command we make, and no insult at all. But we have to learn how to sit and steady our minds. Not just because meditation is that, and not just because we want to learn how to, focus on our success and our abundance and our whatever. These words are great if you need them. But inside me, I could sit completely silent and know all things. I'm only trying my hardest to put it into the words that this guy who was educated a certain way through a certain school and given probably, I don't know, throughout your life, we got at least three different boosters and at least 10 shots when you're a baby. But I've gone through all that, left the body and come back, and I speak through this body the way it is. And I eat as healthy and naturally as I can, because those are also being tampered with on this earth world. Not just people, not just our minds, because each individual has a piece of that mind and they can make it up for themselves, which we refer to as free will. They can say no. They can quit their inhumane jobs. They're not just wandering around going, I don't know what I'm doing. Ooh. Or else I wouldn't be able to talk like this, or somebody would be controlling me. Now, just understand how I said that and realize that you can make a choice to listen to what I'm saying and agree. You can turn away and be busy eating or, you know, writing something or, you know, doing some kind of secondary thing that distracts you a little bit because you don't have the ability to sit still and actually pay attention to something for very long. And I do understand that. I went through all these things. So if you can just understand that this is my heart trying to help you, you'll see that we can come together and work in cooperation with each other and make the changes that this world, this country, whatever country you're in, these countries, these mini nations, we can make the changes that this planet needs. And then after that, that will change to what the universe needs, because the universe loves balance. The universe does have its own individual entity with all these other big planetary and galactic entities that we refer to through movies and through science. Now, we've also done that with all our body parts inside, and guess what we've done to explain the ones on the outside? We speak names and words. And when we do that, they actually hold magic power. And that's what I'm trying to explain to people and put into the easiest, most simple words they can hear. Now, I hope you could follow that. If not, just listen to it a few times, take it in. I'm sorry that I may not have a voice you like. I'm sorry that I may have stumbled a few words, but I'm just trying with all I have to help you. I do not want to see us get killed. I do not want to see us all fade away and perish. And the best we can do is show our love for each other, be accepting of our flaws, and work on fixing those things so that each person can feel their healthiest, their best, their most comprehensive, their most clear in everything, have a mind that can actually understand and visualize the most magical things that we really are. And I'm talking light, bright, wonderful magic, not dark, scary occult magic. Because occult doesn't mean anything bad, but I throw that word in there because of the kind of sound it will give it to other people. Occult does not mean anything bad. Everything that you hide from somebody is occulted. So you're an occult kind of individual when it comes to your family and other people and your secrets and things like that. But it doesn't mean anything necessarily bad. It just means hidden from sight or ongoing concept upon itself, the unseen concept upon itself as a unit or underlying. And then the L separates it and the T is a plus. It's just saying it's here, separated and from the other things outside of it. That's all that word really means. But we have bodies and we have minds and we have other people to contend with that make us believe certain factors are true in the world. Now, even the most rude and heinous and violent people are living this way. They're not soulless. They are, there's a higher word than all of these things. And they are not without that. They're just coming from a different place that we don't want to understand. And we can still harmonize with them. We just have to find what in them has that heart. And it can be changed. If there was no possibility for change, then the world wouldn't be going day to day the way it is with their slow changes or their speedy changes, however they seem to present themselves. Now, if you can really contemplate on that, try to explain that to yourself and really think about how if there's no such thing or there's no way to change anybody, even if they were aliens or terrestrial beings or any of those things, any person who thinks that there's no way to change them has to understand that they learned something and it can be changed with enough love and enough desire, enough dedication and discipline. Now, if I can, on a more daily basis, get my mind out of that my children have been taken and held away from me, then yes, I could do a lot more for people. If other people would help me stand up to the governmental laws that are made up of people who hold us in this kind of place, and people just think they're doing their jobs and like they're doing good. If other people can help support me do that, we can do so much together. We can literally transform our lands into beautiful, edible world, but not to pig out on it, to cooperate with it. Now, this is from the bottom of my heart. I'm going to stop with that because I know I talked for a long time. God bless you all. Whatever higher form or whatever word you like to use for that, insert that there. I love you, and we'll talk again soon.